A modest woman ridiculed by high society elites at an exclusive charity event, only for them to discover she's worth 100 times more than all of them combined. They snickered at her simple beige dress amidst their designer gowns, whispered cruel jokes about her ordinary appearance, but never imagined the fortune behind her humble demeanor, or the powerful lesson they were about to learn. The crystal chandeliers of the Westbrook Ballroom cast a golden glow over Manhattan's most exclusive charity gala. Women in designer gowns adorned with diamonds glided across marble floors, while men in tailored tuxedos exchanged business cards disguised as small talk. Olivia Harrison adjusted her emerald necklace, its green stones matching her elegant dress perfectly. Beside her, Victoria Wellington smoothed her black designer gown, while Rebecca Thornton beamed in her navy blue ensemble with silver accents. New York's social elite in the flesh. The new hospital wing better be named after someone worthwhile this time, Olivia remarked, eyeing the room critically. Last year's donors were hardly established. As the women nodded in agreement, a newcomer entered the ballroom. Sarah Mitchell stood in a simple beige dress, modest, unadorned, and painfully plain compared to the couture surrounding her. No statement jewelry, no designer clutch. Her auburn hair was styled simply, her makeup minimal. Who invited her? Rebecca whispered, not bothering to lower her voice. And in that dress, it looks like she's here for a job interview, not a $10,000 a plate charity event. Sarah moved through the crowd with quiet confidence. At 35, she carried herself with natural grace that required no embellishment. She paused to study the architectural renderings of the Children's Hospital expansion, tonight's designated cause, her eyes focused on details others overlooked. What none of these socialites knew was that Sarah had spent the morning touring the hospital's current pediatric ward, learning the names of young patients and promising a little girl with leukemia that the new wing would have windows facing the garden where butterflies gathered in spring. A promise Sarah knew would be kept. I don't believe we've met, came a cultured voice beside Sarah. Olivia Harrison extended her hand, diamond bracelet catching the light. Olivia Harrison, hospital board fundraising chair. Sarah turned, offering a genuine smile. Sarah Mitchell, it's lovely to meet you. Olivia's smile remained fixed as her eyes assessed Sarah's attire, searching for a designer label, finding none. And what brings you to our little gathering tonight? Are you with the medical staff? No, Sarah replied simply. I'm just passionate about children's healthcare. Victoria and Rebecca drifted closer, circling like elegantly dressed sharks. We don't often see new faces at these events, Victoria commented, champagne flute poised delicately in manicured fingers. The Westbrook Gala is usually quite exclusive. Sarah nodded. The invitation mentioned the pediatric oncology wing. It's a cause close to my heart. Rebecca exchanged a quick glance with Olivia, eyebrows raised. Well, every small contribution helps, I suppose, though tonight's donors are mostly in the 6- and 7-figure range. It adds up, Sarah agreed pleasantly. Olivia's eyes narrowed slightly. There was something about this plain woman's confidence that unsettled her. Your dress, she began, voice dripping with false concern, is it vintage? The question hung in the air, its true meaning transparent. Victoria barely concealed a smirk behind her champagne glass. Just simple, Sarah replied, unperturbed. I find elaborate designs distracting. How practical, Olivia replied, her tone making the word sound like an insult. We must introduce you to Alexander Pierce. He's our biggest donor from last year, $5 million for the emergency department. Alex loves meeting everyday people. Sarah's eyes reflected a quiet wisdom. I'd enjoy that. As they guided Sarah across the ballroom, Olivia subtly signaled to others in their circle, rolling her eyes when Sarah wasn't looking. Whispers followed in their wake. Who brought the secretary? Is that dress from a department store? Poor thing, she clearly doesn't belong here. Dr. Michael Bennett, the hospital's chief of pediatrics, approached their group with a warm smile. Ladies, wonderful to see you again." His eyes brightened upon seeing Sarah. "Miss Mitchell, I didn't know you'd be here tonight." Olivia's perfect eyebrows arched in surprise. "You two know each other." Before Sarah could respond, Dr. Bennett continued enthusiastically. "Miss Mitchell visited our pediatric ward this morning. Spent hours with the children. Little Lily hasn't stopped talking about the butterfly garden you promised her." Olivia's smile tightened. How charitable. But Dr. Bennett, Miss Mitchell was just about to join us in meeting Alexander Pierce. "Ah, Alex is caught up with the mayor at the moment," Dr. Bennett replied. "Perhaps Miss Mitchell could share her thoughts on the new wing design while we wait. Her perspective might be valuable." Rebecca gave a silvery laugh. "Michael, darling, I'm sure Miss Mitchell is more interested in the canapes than construction plans. This is rather technical, after all." Sarah remained silent, her expression betraying nothing. "Actually," Dr. Bennett replied, his tone cooling slightly, "Miss Mitchell asked some remarkably insightful questions about our pediatric care protocols this morning. I'd value her input." Olivia smoothly intervened. "Michael, we shouldn't overwhelm our guest. These events can be intimidating for newcomers." She turned to Sarah with practiced condescension. "The donors' circle operates quite differently from regular hospital visitors. It's all rather complex." Across the room, the hospital's executive director ascended the small stage. Olivia's eyes gleamed with anticipation. "Ladies and gentlemen, we're just moments away from revealing our major donors for the new children's wing," she whispered to her friends. "This is where we shine, darlings." Sarah glanced toward the stage, then at her watch. "If you'll excuse me, I need to step out for a moment." "Of course," Olivia replied, barely concealing her relief. "The restrooms are down the hall to the left, though I'm not sure they can do much to help with that dress." As Sarah walked away, Rebecca leaned in. "My goodness, Olivia. Wherever did they find her? She looks like she wandered in from a job fair." "The hospital probably invited some everyday heroes for publicity photos," Olivia replied dismissively. "You know how it is. They need to show diversity in their donor materials. The working class makes for touching brochure stories." Victoria nodded smugly. "Did you see her expression when you mentioned Alexander's $5 million? I thought her eyes would pop out of her head." The women laughed, crystal glasses tinkling like wind chimes as they clinked them together in solidarity, completely unaware of the tidal shift about to append their carefully ordered social hierarchy. Want to know what happens when Sarah's true identity is revealed? Keep reading to discover the shocking twist that leaves Manhattan's elite speechless. Sarah slipped back into the ballroom just as William Harrington, the hospital's executive director, tapped the microphone. The crowd quieted, jewelry glinting under the chandeliers as New York's elite turned their attention to the stage. "Ladies and gentlemen, tonight marks a historic chapter for Manhattan Children's Hospital," Harrington began, his voice resonating with practiced gravitas. "The new pediatric oncology wing will revolutionize how we treat our youngest cancer patients." Olivia and her circle positioned themselves prominently near the front, champagne flutes refreshed, expressions expectant. This was their moment, where donations were announced, names immortalized, and social pecking orders reinforced. Sarah stood quietly at the back, observing. "Before we unveil our donor wall," Harrington continued, "I want to share something extraordinary. For the first time in our hospital's 150-year history, we've received an anonymous donation that has left our entire board speechless." Murmurs rippled through the crowd. Anonymous donations weren't uncommon, but the director's tone suggested something unprecedented. Olivia frowned slightly. Anonymous donors didn't fit neatly into her social calculations. They couldn't be ranked, impressed, or leveraged for future connections. This individual contributed $25 million specifically for our pediatric oncology wing, Harrington announced, with the single condition that the new garden terrace be called Lily's Butterfly Haven, after one of our young patients. Dr. Bennett's eyes widened, his gaze immediately searching the room until it landed on Sarah. While we normally respect our anonymous donor's privacy, Harrington continued, this particular benefactor has given us permission to acknowledge them tonight, as they are present in this very room. Olivia's group straightened imperceptibly, each woman mentally calculating if her family could have secretly made such a donation without her knowledge. Our extraordinary benefactor has a unique understanding of childhood illness, Harrington explained. 20 years ago, she herself was a patient in our hospital, fighting a battle no child should face. Today, she continues that fight on behalf of others. The director looked across the ballroom. Miss Mitchell, would you please join me on stage? The room fell silent, then erupted in confused whispers. Olivia's champagne glass froze halfway to her lips, her expression caught between disbelief and horror. There must be another Mitchell here, Rebecca whispered frantically. But Sarah was already moving forward, their simple beige dress parting the sea of designer gowns as she ascended the steps to the stage with quiet dignity. Ladies and gentlemen, Harrington announced, his voice carrying over the whispers. It is my honor to introduce Miss Sarah Mitchell, founder of the Mitchell Foundation for Children's Medical Research and our lead benefactor for the new oncology wing. Olivia's champagne glass nearly slipped from her fingers. Victoria's mouth formed a perfect O of shock. Rebecca clutched her pearls as if seeking reassurance from their solidity. Ms. Mitchell's foundation has funded groundbreaking pediatric cancer research across the country, Harrington continued, and her personal contribution of $25 million is the largest single donation in our hospital's history. Sarah stepped forward to the microphone, the simple dress now seeming less a fashion faux pas and more a deliberate choice, a statement about values and priorities that made Olivia's designer gown suddenly feel ostentatious. Thank you, Director Harrington, Sarah began, her voice soft but unwavering. When I was 12 years old, I spent 9 months in this hospital fighting leukemia. The doctors and nurses here didn't just save my life. They showed me what compassion truly means. The room hung on her every word, social hierarchies momentarily forgotten as they glimpsed the depth behind her unassuming exterior. Today, I'm fortunate enough to be in a position to give back, Sarah continued. The Mitchell Foundation was created with a singular mission: to ensure that every child, regardless of their family's financial circumstances, receives the same quality of care that saved my life. Dr. Bennett was beaming with undisguised pride. Across the room, Olivia and her friends had gone pale, their earlier mockery replaying in their minds with devastating clarity. Lily's Butterfly Haven will be a place of healing and hope, Sarah explained, her eyes bright with purpose, because sometimes the smallest beings, whether butterflies or children, can teach us the most profound lessons of our transformation and resilience. As Sarah stepped away from the microphone, the ballroom erupted in applause. Director Harrington invited donors to view the architectural plans for the new wing, and the crowd surged forward, many casting curious glances at the unassuming woman, now revealed to be New York's most significant philanthropist. Olivia remained frozen in place, her world tilting on its axis. The woman she had dismissed, mocked, and patronized just minutes ago wasn't just wealthy. She was a legend in philanthropic circles, with resources that dwarfed the Harrison family fortune. And Olivia had asked if her dress was vintage. As the crowd migrated toward the architectural display, Sarah found herself at the center of a swirling sea of attention. Board members who had barely glanced at her earlier now competed for her acknowledgement. Donors who had whispered behind their hands now beamed with manufactured familiarity. Through the pressing crowd, Sarah caught sight of Olivia and her friends huddled in urgent conversation, their glances toward her carrying a mixture of mortification and calculation, the latter troubling her more than the former. Dr. Bennett appeared at Sarah's side, his kind eyes crinkling at the corners. I wanted to see their faces when they realized, he admitted quietly. Is that terrible of me? Sarah's lips curved into a gentle smile. I didn't do this for the reveal, Michael. Though I admit it does make a point. 25 million points, to be exact, he replied with a chuckle. Then more seriously, Lily hasn't stopped talking about her butterflies. You've given her something precious. Hope with a timeline, something to look forward to. Sarah's expression softened at the mention of the young patient. Some promises matter more than others. Their conversation paused as Olivia approached, her designer heels clicking purposefully across the marble floor. Victoria and Rebecca flanked her, their expressions schooled into practiced smiles that didn't reach their eyes. Miss Mitchell, Olivia began, her voice honey-sweet. What an absolutely wonderful surprise. Had we known of your foundation's important work? But you didn't need to know, Sarah interrupted gently. That's rather the point, isn't it? Olivia faltered, their social armor developing its first visible crack. There appears to have been a misunderstanding. No misunderstanding, Sarah replied, her tone kind but direct. You saw what you expected to see. A woman whose worth you measured by her clothing and connections rather than her character. Victoria stepped forward, diamond earrings catching the light. We meant no offense. These events have certain expectations, standards. Yes, Sarah agreed, and tonight has certainly been illuminating about what those standards truly are. Rebecca, growing uncomfortable with the directness of the exchange, attempted to pivot. Your foundation sounds fascinating, Sarah. May I call you Sarah? Perhaps we could discuss your involvement in our annual fundraiser luncheon next month. The exposure would be beneficial. To whom? Sarah asked quietly. The question hung in the air, its implications unmistakable. Director Harrington approached, breaking the tense moment. Miss Mitchell, the mayor would like to personally thank you for your extraordinary contribution. Sarah nodded graciously. Of course. As she turned to follow the director, she paused, looking back at the three women. The children's wing opens in 6 months. When it does, I hope you'll visit. Not for a ribbon-cutting photo, but to meet the children whose lives will be transformed. Their perspectives might surprise you. Left behind, Olivia's carefully constructed facade crumbled further. Did that just happen? She whispered to her friends. 25 million, Victoria murmured, the number hanging between them like an indictment. And we treated her like she wandered in from the street. Rebecca's gaze followed Sarah's retreating figure. Who exactly is she? Beyond the foundation. Olivia pulled out her phone, fingers trembling slightly as she typed. Her eyes widened as results populated her screen. The Mitchell technology fortune, she breathed. Her parents were David and Elizabeth Mitchell, the tech pioneers who revolutionized medical imaging. They died in a plane crash 10 years ago. She inherited everything. How much is everything? Victoria pressed. Olivia looked across the room. Sarah stood with the mayor and hospital board, her simple beige dress now the most powerful statement in the room, not because of its design or cost, but because of the woman wearing it. A woman who had the means to outshine everyone, yet chose understanding over ostentation, substance over spectacle. The evening's true beneficiaries weren't in this ballroom at all, but in hospital beds across the city. Their future was now brighter because someone who could have lived solely for herself had chosen instead to live for others. As the evening progressed, Sarah found herself momentarily alone, studying the rendering of Lily's Butterfly Haven. The garden's design included special accommodations for hospital beds and wheelchairs, allowing even the most critically ill children to experience nature's healing presence. It's beautiful, came a voice. Olivia's. Her tone now stripped of its earlier condescension. Sarah turned. It will be. Olivia hesitated, then spoke with unexpected sincerity. Why didn't you say something when we were? When I was? Would it have mattered? Sarah asked. Should it matter? Olivia fell silent, confronting questions that had never before penetrated her carefully constructed world. My worth, anyone's worth, isn't measured by their bank account or family name. Sarah continued gently. The The children I visited this morning don't care about designer labels or social connections. They care about kindness, about being seen for who they are, not what they have or how they look. I've never considered it that way, Olivia admitted, the honesty seeming to surprise even herself. Few of us do, until something forces us to, Sarah replied. She gestured toward the hospital rendering. Every child who comes through these doors deserves to be treated with the same dignity and respect, regardless of their circumstances, just as every person in this room deserves the same, regardless of their dress or pedigree. Olivia's carefully applied makeup couldn't hide the flush creeping up her neck. I behaved abhorrently. Yes, Sarah agreed simply. The question is, what will you do with that realization? Before Olivia could respond, Director Harrington called for attention. The room quieted as he prepared to unveil the donor wall. Names of contributors would be immortalized in order of their donations, with Sarah at the very top. Ladies and gentlemen, it is with profound gratitude that we recognize those whose generosity will make our new children's wing possible. These names represent not just financial contributions, but investments in our community's future. As the velvet covering was pulled away, gasps rippled through the crowd. Where Sarah Mitchell's name should have appeared at the top of the donor wall was instead a simple inscription, in honor of Lily and all children fighting battles beyond their years. Your courage inspires our commitment. Director Harrington looked towards Sarah, who gave a small nod. Miss Mitchell has requested that her contribution remain anonymous on our permanent installation, he explained, his voice thick with emotion. She believes the true focus should remain on the children we serve. The ballroom fell silent as the implication of her choice sank in. Sarah had rejected the very recognition that most in this room coveted above all else. Her $25 million donation would forever be attributed not to her name, but to the children themselves. It was perhaps the most powerful statement she could have made. A rejection of the very hierarchy that had led Olivia and her friends to dismiss her in the first place. Olivia turned to Sarah, tears glistening in her eyes. For the first time that evening, perhaps for the first time in years, she spoke without calculation or pretense. You show me something tonight I desperately needed to see, she whispered. Thank you. Sarah's smile was genuine. We all need reminding sometimes that our true worth isn't in what we have, but in what we give. As conversations resumed around them, Sarah slipped quietly toward the exit, her purpose for the evening accomplished, not just the donation, but perhaps something equally valuable, a seed of transformation planted in unexpected soil. 6 months later, sunshine spilled through the windows of Lily's Butterfly Haven, as Sarah guided a wheelchair-bound little girl toward a monarch butterfly resting on a purple confer. See how the wings open and close. Sarah pointed. They're drying in the sun, gathering strength for flight. Lily's delicate fingers reached out, not quite touching. Just like me, she whispered. I'm gaining strength too. Sarah squeezed the 8-year-old's shoulder gently. Exactly like you. The garden had exceeded even Sarah's vision. A sanctuary where healing transcended medicine alone. Flowering plants chosen specifically to attract butterflies created bursts of color against lush greenery. Accessible pathways wound through the space, ensuring every child, regardless of mobility challenges, could experience its wonders. Miss Mitchell called a nurse from the doorway. The dedication ceremony begins in 10 minutes. Sarah nodded. Ready for your big moment, butterfly girl? Lily grinned, the gap where her front teeth had been adding to her charm. Born ready, she replied, repeating the phrase her doctors used before treatments. As Sarah wheeled Lily toward the new hospital wing's main atrium, she felt a peculiar sense of fulfillment. Not from the building itself, impressive as it was with its state-of-the-art technology and child-centered design, but from the lives it would transform. The atrium buzzed with activity. Hospital staff, patients and their families, media representatives, and major donors gathered for the official opening. Sarah spotted Dr. Bennett speaking with the hospital board near the podium. And there, arranging children from the oncology ward into a small choir, was Olivia Harrison. Olivia looked up, catching Sarah's eye. Her smile was genuine as she crossed the room. "Lily, our star singer has arrived," she greeted, kneeling to the child's eye level with natural ease. Gone was the condescension that had once colored her interactions. In its place was authentic warmth. Over the past 6 months, Olivia had undergone a transformation as remarkable as the building they stood in. What began as embarrassment had evolved into genuine self-reflection and, ultimately, action. She'd resigned from 3 social committees to devote her time to the hospital's patient support programs, working directly with families navigating the terrifying landscape of childhood illness. "The children are so excited," Olivia told Sarah, rising to her feet. "They've been practicing their song for weeks." Sarah nodded. "It sounds beautiful. Mozart would approve." "It was your idea to have them perform," Olivia reminded her. "You said their voices should be the first heard in this space." "You were right." Director Harrington approached, clipboard in hand. "We're ready to begin. Miss Mitchell, would you and Lily take your places by the ribbon?" The ceremony unfolded with dignified simplicity. Speeches remained mercifully brief, focused on the children who would benefit rather than the adults who had contributed. When Lily and 3 other young patients cut the ribbon together, their faces radiant with importance, there wasn't a dry eye in the atrium. Afterward, as attendees toured the new facility, Sarah found herself alone with Olivia near Lily's butterfly haven. "I owe you an apology," Olivia said, watching butterflies drift between flowers. "Not just for that night, but for a lifetime of measuring people by the wrong metrics." Sarah shook her head. "You've apologized enough. Your actions these past months speak louder than any words could." Olivia smiled ruefully. "Victoria and Rebecca think I've lost my mind, spending my days with sick children instead of planning charity luncheons. Positively scandalous." "And what do you think?" Sarah asked. "I think I was asleep for most of my life," Olivia replied simply. "Making judgments based on appearances, collecting connections instead of creating meaning." She gestured toward the children exploring the garden. "They've taught me more about living than 20 years in New York society ever did." Sarah nodded. "They have a way of stripping life down to its essentials." "My husband doesn't quite understand," Olivia admitted. "He's supportive but confused by the new me. Yesterday, he asked when I'd be rejoining the country club committee." "And what did you tell him?" Olivia laughed. "That I'm too busy helping plan the hospital's new sibling support program." The look on his face was priceless. Their conversation paused as Lily wheeled herself over to a newly emerged butterfly perched on a feeding station. "What she doesn't know," Olivia said quietly, "is that her mother works 2 jobs to pay for treatments insurance won't cover. I've established a foundation to help families like hers." The paperwork was finalized yesterday. Sarah's eyebrows rose in genuine surprise. "Olivia, that's wonderful." "It's a beginning," Olivia replied. "You showed me that wealth brings responsibility, not just privilege. I can't donate $25 million, but I can make a difference in my own way." Sarah smiled. "That's all any of us can do." As they watched Lily carefully coax a butterfly onto her finger, her face alight with wonder, Olivia spoke again, her voice reflective. "That night at the gala, it wasn't really about the money, was it? Your point, I mean." "No," Sarah acknowledged. "It was about seeing beyond surfaces, about recognizing that true worth isn't reflected in clothes or bank accounts or social standing." "I judged you by your dress," Olivia said quietly. "And now?" Sarah asked. Olivia's gaze shifted to Lily, then back to Sarah. "Now I try to see people as they are, not as they appear. It's harder than it sounds." "The most meaningful changes usually are," Sarah replied. A nurse approached, letting them know the children's choir was assembling for their final performance. As they walked back toward the atrium, Olivia paused. "Thank you," she said simply, "for the humbling I needed. and for the opportunity to become someone better. Sarah squeezed her hand briefly. We're all works in progress, Olivia. The butterfly doesn't start out with wings. Together, they joined the gathering in the sunlit atrium, where children's voices soon filled the space with song. A chorus of hope rising from those who understood better than most the precious nature of each day and the true meaning of transformation. We all make judgments based on appearances, but as Olivia learned, looking beyond the surface reveals the true worth of those around us. The most valuable lesson isn't about wealth or status, but about seeing people for who they truly are, and perhaps in doing so, discovering something profound about ourselves in the process. After all, the most powerful transformations often begin with a simple shift in perspective.